Good morning, world. Or at least it's morning for me. Good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night. I am Bret. Sometimes I wear a beret, and I am coming to you live from the West Coast, Oregon. And I am here to talk to you about life, as always. I have the Facebook feed open. I also have the chat open, so I will be looking through your live comments, and I will also be going through some of the posts on the world's largest party Facebook. And then we'll get into, I guess, the title of this segment, which is bringing more whimsy to your wars, which can be boiled down to a few key points. So it should be pretty straightforward. So mostly if you want to chat, let's chat. And if you want any opinions from me, I am glad to offer them. Yes, we'll start with the parkour shirt. Aldos, are you a man of parkour? Is that what you do? I used to do a little bit of parkour, but I 100% admit that I am very much out of the game, and right now has not been conducive to try and get back into it, unfortunately. Good morning, folks. Good morning, from the East Coast, Boomstick Mods. Good to see you. Yeah, you know what? One of the things I remember being really excited about of the I guess you can't totally see it. Look, parkour. There was a parkour gym. There's a couple of them in the near area, and I went there once because they had a Nerf night. That's what gets me out of the house, apparently. And it was so different to play at a parkour arena, and I'm sure I'm talking to you like you have no idea what it would be like. But it was a smaller gym than what looks like your arenas are, and the people were using, stock blasters. It wasn't like these were Nerf modders, Nerf enthusiasts who knew anything about the hobby so much. And I just remember like, oh, well, I've got like a Magnum Super Drum. I can outrange all of them. I have higher capacity. This is going to be a joke. I know what I'm doing. I've played this for almost a decade at this point. And it was just such a different game than I've ever played before, because the parkour arena it was about like being fast, moving around, and like the games that they played too didn't necessarily require you to have high capacity, high rate of fire. They were very whimsical games, hence the title of this section too, which was cool. But then they were also like, sometimes like there was someone walking around as a juggernaut that had like view restricting glasses, and it was just about surviving and trying to tag them when they could. It didn't matter if you had a high powered blaster or a low powered blaster, and to that point high powered blasters weren't a good idea for close proximity. So running around with a double strike was totally fine, and I remember that being like a really fun event. And I also remember it being an event where I brought my Doominator, and I really hated it. So if you have to ask me for one of my least favorite blasters, it's probably that. But yeah, I really wish they would get back and do those events again, because all I've seen them advertise are events for children now. And it turns out I am not a child, at least not on paper. So yes, that's my parkour story, and I'm going to run with it. Good morning, good morning out of darts, Mr. Luke. Good morning to you. You'll see him on in the next couple of hours. Good morning, Rival League Joker. All right, I am going to jump to the Facebook feed, which right now is set to me. Boop-a-doop-a-doop. So I haven't looked at any of these in some time. I have been asleep, so let's look at what the past 8 or so hours has given us. And I will be evaluating these based off of no criteria whatsoever. Going to assemble my spamf. I am Joseph, seriously. Nice. Wait a minute, what is that? Is there gold parts? Can you request gold parts? Oh, is that the secondary color? Spamps always are good. I like this. From Tucker, refining my Mod Bros HMI AT kit. Almost there. Look at that elite alpha trooper. Guys, it's so sad. I have not been able to play with my elite alpha trooper ever since it kicked the bucket. I had an orange ModWorks spring upgrade in there, catch spring upgrade, and I had the orange Modric sticker on it because that was one of the first upgrade kits I ever bought, which if you go back and see uh, Bobololo and Drax previous stream, we can discuss how that ruined HVZ. That was a great topic. It was pretty good. Listening to guys who used to play HVZ complain about all the good times are no longer there. Saw this one earlier. Good morning, voice. Yeah. Um, hey, it's an Archer. Good morning, Archer. Mr. Boomtendo, single burst wave with removable cylinder, aluminum sleeve, glow stick barrel for version 1, and 2 Boomco darts. Still manually rotate cylinders. Internals reinforced with epoxy and goop. Planning to have other cylinders to swap for different shotgun bursts. I'm still working on the front iron sights, but I plan to paint it purple in the finished design. That burst wave, though. Now that's a barrel. At least you can know where you're aiming. It's funny how when I met Walcom for the first time, I remember he was just so excited about, oh, okay, that's some good FPS, 305. He was so excited about the burst wave, and of course now you can't, for Boomco reasons and just for blaster specific reasons, it's hard to find them. So note to anyone out there who doesn't understand, if you find a burst wave, you should probably hold on to it, assuming that it can still hold a pump, as most air blasters would be, right? Like you find a mag strike and it holds air, you can keep it. You find a mag strike that doesn't hold air, keep the clip, because there will probably be another one later. From Christopher, basic Raven rewire with an out of dart switch plate. I hear that guy is a joke. 16 gauge wire, because that's what Lowe's carries. Was not too sure about adding new switches till I saw the video of his switch plates. Didn't want to gut the shell and just glue a switch inside, as I wasn't sure how well it would hold up over time. With this new plate, switch is a breeze. New switch plate is a breeze. I'm waking up. Highly recommend. I think I gave away my original Raven not too long ago because I just wasn't using it. And I know a lot of people really like to use Ravens. So, but the good news is that more bullpups are on the horizon. So for all you bullpup fanatics, the end has not come just yet. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, remember, if you post something in the Facebook feed, door prizes. Pretty sure that's still going. 21 hours ago, probably touched on. Good stuff though. Like it, paint jobs. Meme. Oh, I saw this earlier, but I'm not sure if I actually touched on it on the previous time I was with Mr. Captain Xavier. Hey, Luke, if you're out there, why don't you do this? Put a magazine out the front of your takedown. It's pretty hilarious. It reminds me of the first Chronos mods for extending capacity. But on this one, at least, like the capacity's perfectly acceptable at 8. But I remember that, like the Chronos, when first comes out, you're like, oh, 5-round capacity? Cool. Can I have more, please? And then Hasbro was like, not yet. We'll make you a more expensive Chronos down the line. We'll make a few iterations. But I like how this, it just looks like you're gonna rip and tear. Maybe put like a foam chainsaw on that. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Safe practice. Brett, my parents were going to go to France to bring back a beret, but it got canceled due to reasons. I'm going to avoid saying the reasons. I don't know if that's caused problems for people in the past. And now I'm beretless. I understand. I don't even know what the odds of getting things like quickly delivered on Amazon right now are, because I'd rather leave that for high priority items. So I'm not even purchasing more berets online right now. You know, it's a hard time. I can't even get new colors to round out my collection. Hey, here's a thing from Gary. So now that the contest is closed, I want to show off my best blaster, HECS 10 V2. Was there a contest? Did I miss it? Now that is a thing. That's a cool thing. It's got, I mean, full disclosure, it's a little more black than I might bring outside as far as barrels go, but different locations, different regulations. Can it play? It's gonna break my ear. Oh, it's got lights. Does it have sound? Oh, come on. I don't know if it has sound. It's got lights. I like. That's cool. That's a cool shell integration. Modulus, original modulus in the front, and the stock is obviously a hyperfire, and I can't tell you if there's anything more going on in the middle, which is a good sign. Hold on. Moving on. One of mine and my son's more recent mods, he may have helped, but these are mine. The takedown is seal improvement in K26 and gets a great 140 FPS. The Mega Blaster gets about 100 with a PVC barrel and a seal improvement. Nice. That is perfectly game legal for what we typically have. What do you mean more berets? How often do you order new berets? Destroyer, that is not important. It's just an example. You don't need to know how many berets I own. It's part of the costume. It's important to me. Oh, believe the door prize raffle is closed for new entries? Well, thanks, Simon. I didn't know. So once again, I'm back at it with a modified hot shock. No surprise there, really. This time I'm feeling a steampunk vibe. Of course, brass rebarreled with our Finland Nerf Works V2 kit and upgraded to a 10 kg spring. Look at that. Guys, gears, steampunk, instant steampunk. I really have missed out on jumping on a simple hot shock mod. They seem like they really are good for some upgrades just because the plunger tube is so nice. I mean, let's be honest, most Mega Blasters have big plunger tube. I feel like every Mega Blaster has its place for either integration or modification. Maybe you could say that about literally anything ever. But because of the Mega's size, it just seems that you either can get more out of it because of its plunger volume or because it has a big shell. And that's my thought of the day. Just finished a one-day build, HPA Raptor Strike. Plenty of dead space to prevent decaps hitting 275 FPS with a 25 centimeter barrel. Not bad for a day's work. Paint to come soon. I'm thinking Geth themed from Mass Effect to complement the shell's sci-fi shape. Shoot, if only I knew my Mass Effect. I do not. Nerfius Datimus. Nerfius Datimus. Okay, that's a good name. Looks like it's a nice one-day build. I feel like there could be a good challenge for that right now. People just doing one-day builds if they have the resources, they have the time. That's a fun one. Sorry, I poked the mic. I saw this one earlier, but I don't think I commented on it before. Check out that. Spartan ECS, ESC. ESC? ECS. I don't know. Still waiting on my Select Fire kit. Basically done. That's a good look. Nicholas, that's good. I like that. That's good. So Rapid Strike with a Raven in the back, but it just, look how clean that is. Oh, I liked it. Yeah, there you go. I like how that's so clean. And I like the yellow. I like that you went back and used yellow on this. The extra little barrel in the front is also a good touch. And of course, the drum. Your addition of a little bit of gray to the drum, I think, looks pretty nice. I would never be afraid of this being like mistaken for something just because you painted the drum a little bit. US laws, you know. That's very, very sweet. Well, this has been sat on a shelf gathering dust for the last 3 years. I think I may have to try to get it finished soon. From Ross. Look at that. Hey, see my previous comment about Mega Blasters. So there is a Centurion Strife integration. Those have been very popular for a good reason. Centurion Strife, not Strifle. Strife Turion. Is that what we've called them? They make sense. Again, Centurion got a lot of space. It's got a good look for its stock. Barrel is good too if you can find a spot for it. But I mean, yeah, look at all the space you've got to house whatever the heck you want in the back. Door prize question. Saw this before. Saw that before too. All right, I think I'm caught up on a lot. Nope, I was wrong. Swapping out the spring on my Magnus and turning it into a master key for my Raven. Best of luck on everyone's mods. Sweet and simple. Magnuth. Ooh, star shot. Oh no, what is this? Infinity Pack Blaster holds 1,000 rival rounds and fires at 15 rounds per second with a velocity of 200 plus feet per second. Upgrading custom PCBs and LED rate of fire plus velocity indicators on Ben 10 themed gauntlet. I think I've seen this before. Rip my ears? Oh, not yet. Oh, rip my ears. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's definitely firing. Any more specifics on that? So it looks like, yeah, it's a fully mountable or holdable. It's got the sole purpose of going on your hand, which is, I mean, I'm not going to lie, that's a lot of people's dream. That's pretty cool. Man, be cool if something like this existed. I'm sure the near future might bring us that. I'm not talking to anyone in particular. It's exciting, and the good news is that it's probably going to be something that a lot of people get to play with. So cool. That reminds me, Luke, do you think I can wrist mount a Jupiter? I'll let Outer Darts answer that question. Ooh. My Baron paint job is done, and it looks great. It's attached to a Strife with Krakens and worker wheels. It also features motor braking and a second XT60 to quick swap motor cages. That's pretty. Are those orange, or is that like yellow and orange? It looks like it's a mixture of yellow and orange for the parts that are jumping out, not the obvious darker rest of the shell. Colonel Warren, well done. What is this? Started to make a panel for the voltmeter in my 3S Nemesis. Now I just need to fill the gaps with epoxy. Sweet and simple, Dante. Well done. I saw this earlier too. This is still very interesting though. And I saw this earlier too. This is, if you guys haven't seen the GameCube controller that shoots, it's good. It's good. Oh no. JLo, we've got a thing that might interest you. My brass breech knockout with integrated scar barrel. Man, I was talking about this earlier too. Knockouts are so popular. Knockouts so hot right now. They're really fun. Customizable. For Liam Davis, jank peed. Oh no. Some jank, but it's HPA, so obviously the results are going to be pretty decent. Hey, that's right. I knew I saw this one somewhere. From this dude called Kyle. I might know him. Whipped up a Hera pistol build last night. I'll let you into my trade secrets using a Chonky Boy RIFP IRFP 7530 MOSFET makes it super easy to solder wire to the TO247 legs and is rated to 195 amps of current. This one is hiding in the foregrip with plenty of room to spare. Battery tray was cut to pretty standard lines like other Hera pistol builds. I'm running a single 3S 1000 milliamp hour pack, but I could probably fit two in line with some more shell trimming. But why would you, Kyle? Why would you? Harrah's. I've seen that Harrah's have been discounted heavily recently if you can find them in stores, which is cool because the Harrah is a lot of fun even though it is a very chonky blaster, as previously stated. And Harrah pistols are kind of funny just because of how fat they still are, like in your hand. Granted, I don't have a big hand for using like a massive blaster, but it's still like it's just it would be a big pistol. These are all, Kyle, those are decapitated darts, aren't they? Why do you have a bucket of decapitated darts? Oh, probably because you cut them all for half lengths. Big brain, modding brain. I like, obviously. Oh my gosh, it's that Kyle guy in the chat. Go back to sleep. It's too early. Hey, Mr. Eric. Here's what I have going on right now, modding a Tommy Mech 20 and building a twig snake / grass snake hybrid. Very cool. I've seen a lot of people talk about their twig snake or grass snake recently. And the worst part is that the more people talk about it, the more I get interested. And the more I get interested, the more my wallet starts looking at me with a very concerned face. But, that's what also happens when you don't get to use your stuff for a while and you're like, what if I got this? Mech Tommy 20, haven't seen one of those in a long time, so good to see some of those getting love. Kyle says 1 bucket equals 3,000 short darts. Yep, that would be what a giant, like, is that an orange ModWorks logo on that bucket? What is this? Collaboration? Collusion with Orange ModWorks? Half darts sponsored by Orange ModWorks. Are they the right length? From Ben, cardboard blaster update. Got the trigger mech working and is mint. Also had to add a layer to the rear cap and add inserts to support the spring / stop. It's sliding out, but still allow the plunger rod, though when priming. Now more waiting for glue to dry in the end cap, so onto the Desolator mod. Oh my gosh, is he building a blaster all the way from scratch? With cardboard? I guess I've seen some things online where people make the blaster just modeled out of cardboard, but I've also seen Ed Scar's completely 3D printed flywheel thing, and that was that was a thing. Hey, he's in the chat. Yes, I am. Well, you're a madman, and good job. That's hilarious. Have cardboard, will mod. Grass snakes are a simple desert pigeon. Twig snake just sings. Yes. Sam and Boomstick, you guys, snakes. Not great for small hands, though. Oh, interesting. Whoa. Grip-fed blasters tend to have chonky handles. Oh, chunky. I said chonky. Yeah, I understand that. Oh, I saw this one earlier. Other people have touched on it, but it's still cool. So I think I'm caught up to where other people have discussed, so I won't waste everyone's time by looking at all of these things. But here's another one. After watching Tom live stream on his Dominator 3-stage 300 FPS build, I was inspired to tweak my Dominator, and first step was to print and add a small tube to cover the gap between the cages. Man, I have not seen, well, for one, I guess I haven't seen too many Dominators in the wild, but I have not seen almost any 3-stage ones because it is an expensive build. But power to, yeah. So that's 2. Maybe it will be 3. Not a mod that I made this weekend, but something to help all of us who don't have the top prime. Is that like a 3D printed thing? Works well. 9 hours ago, at home bottle filling and infinite testing air finally. Endless supply. Oh, Strikaba, of course. That's a good looking hammer shot. All you hammer shot enthusiasts. My first mod, hammer shot with spring spacer, just for indoor fun, printed parts from Thingiverse, 7-shot barrel, thinking about a Picatinny rail, but not sure yet. Hammer shots will live forever. That is an opinion. I think all these are from older time ago. Nope, still one recently. Nightfinder mods. Just a quick and easy mods for our youngest members/viewers. 2 thrifted Nightfinders with AR and dart post removed. Padded plunger head and plumber's tape under O-ring to tighten the seal and better and relubricated it and the plunger tube to reduce friction. I used Captain Xavier's method and placed an electric tape near the front of the barrel inside to create another tighter seal on the darts, so not just the back of the barrel is tight on the darts. Going to revisit this mod when my order of springs and brass tubings finally gets here. I hope soon. Bazinga. Nightfinder mods are the classic mods. If you haven't modded a Nightfinder, I feel like you're missing out on something very special. Nightfinder was probably the first thing I opened up. Hold that thought. That's not true. It was still one of the first blasters I ever opened up, but the Scout from the original Unity system of the Titan, the Hornet, and the Scout, that was the first thing I tried to mod because it stopped catching, because reverse plunger blasters are great. And yeah, that didn't go so well. There was a reason that it stopped working, and I tried to make it work again, but it did not hold. So Nightfinder, I found a really easy tutorial online, and I'm sure you could still find it nowadays because Nightfinders have not disappeared completely. They're still out there. There's a lot of Nightfinders. You can probably still thrift them with relative ease if you had to find a blaster thrifting, like a Maverick. But yeah, it's a good. I'll say when people ask like what might be one of the easiest blasters to mod, I think the Nightfinder is great for someone if you can find it. But like I said, it shouldn't be terribly difficult if you know where to look. They're obviously not sold in stores the same way, but like original Nightfinders, because they just fall apart when you open them, which just makes it really easy to take things out and then do a simple, spring swap, double up springs, make the seal better, put a brass barrel on there, improve the seal in any other way too, put rubber bands on the back. We've done that many, many times. Nightfinders are a great learning tool. It's, way more upgrade potential from the get-go than a Maverick, but you can find Mavericks maybe a little more easily. Ramble. Here's a Chronos thing. This is not a show-off post. It's a post asking for help. Please read fully. Oh, okay. I'm not sure I can commit to that. Instead, I'm just going to look at how like this looks cool. Sorry, I'm missing the spirit of the post. I like that. So Luchathor 13 has a pump kit for his Chronos as well, and it's really fun. And it makes the Chronos really easy to prime because the spring he's got in there is way stronger than I would usually want for pulling back. And it is dang powerful. So hopefully, looks like there's a lot of comments. I'm sure it was helped. Okay, now I think I'm going to call, more Hailfire. All right, we're about 30 minutes in, so I'll about transition over to other topics. Fully automatic Hailfire. I'm curious. Am I going to lose my ears? Did not lie. It is fully automatic Hailfire. Easiest way to find a flywheel setup. Okay, I should get back. All right. So that was stuff. I might go back through there a little bit later again. So specifically, I guess this section was called Bringing More Whimsy to Your Wars. So to make everything I just did in line with that, drinks tea, I will say that most of the things that you just saw there would definitely be things I would use in a war. Now, this should not surprise you. I will run just about anything in a game. The only things that I will not use in games are things that might cause harm to other players due to being unsafe or using in general ammo that would generally be not in line with Rule Zero. And if you don't know what Rule Zero is, look at any rule set out there, and you'll probably figure out very quickly what Rule Zero is. Um, there is a very big change in how games are played for some groups nowadays, but I will start off by addressing that I think one of the great things about Nerf events, yeah, I'm still calling them Nerf events, sorry, they're not. I don't like the other words yet that have been thrown around, but let's not get into that one. I I love that every group does things differently. That's what makes groups special. That's what makes that's what helps a group to grow. Your individual rule set is what people should be excited about. There doesn't need to be one specific set of rules that everyone has to work to around the globe. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Different places allow for different styles of blasters in the first place, right? Some people are okay with painting their blasters all black. Obviously, in America, we try to discourage that as much as possible. That's why people immediately pointed out when anyone posted online. And I'm sure some people across the pond are real sick and tired of that, but there's a reason we say that. So that's a slightly different rule, but just from the thing of like shields and swords versus not having extra things beyond blasters, or megas and missiles counting for extra damage, or other special rules that maybe fall into a more HVZ style scenario. I know some people would prefer that none of that existed and they would prefer a format that is just blasters only. Maybe that also falls in line more with a BTA style game, where the focus is more on competitive and it is less on additional things. It's just about you trying to tag someone out who's trying to tag you out, and it's just a field. People are playing against each other. And to count blaster tags or not to count blaster tags is also a great point to add to that. Thank you, Aldas. Um, Sorry, I get distracted easily, don't I? By the way, my wife and I want to thank you, Beret, and Luke again for the ride you gave us at End War 2019. We would have been wandering for quite some time looking for that mission briefing. Yes, Michael, good to now I know exactly who you are again. Thank you. That is fond memories. Gosh, we were so lost. Anyhow, man, what a weekend that was. I got sick. Um, so to that point, when people are talking about their clubs, and one thing I try to look out for and not become the person who eventually will criticize other people's rule sets is because I will see sometimes other people commenting on like, "Hey, that rule that you have for your group is dumb. Like that you shouldn't do this that way. That doesn't make any sense. Don't do that." And I'm like, "Well, you see, that's the thing though. Like the group might really like that rules. People may have started to design their loadouts, or they might come to a game for a sole reason because they like that rule set or they like that game type that the group hosts. And if you're not playing there, who are you to judge?" Now, if it's causing harm, like if it's something where, well, we're playing Juggernaut, but the only way you take a Juggernaut down is you have to hit them in the head with a Titan. Okay, maybe not do that. Like obviously there are limitations to how far I'll be accepting on that front. But if you don't like having shields at your games, then and if you're one of the people that organizes, then don't have shields at your games. But if you are criticizing other people for having shields, whimsy comes in many forms. And I will definitely say that at our games, we allow shields, we allow swords, we have mega hits counting for busting, or excuse me, for counting as tags through swords or shields. And then we have rockets as counting to blow up what you're using. And that adds a little bit more flavor, makes it more LARPy, I suppose, too. But for some people, they really enjoy that because they're able to maybe not invest as much into some of their crazy blaster loadouts, but they can still play with Nerf. And as long as they understand that this is not a game of Amp Guard where we're trying to actually just hit people really hard, then all is good and well. Now, if people abuse that rule set, we have a different problem. And we have had to tell people in the past, hey, remember, this is Nerf. All you have to do, glasses case, is you have to just tap, right? Like all you have to do is tap someone in the leg with the side of your foam sword, and that's a hit, right? You're not trying to disarm them. So remember that, I guess, as the as Nerf events become more and more prevalent across the globe, just remember that other locations will have different rules that you might not be as interested in, but at the same time, if you think about them, it's a great way to collaborate and make new new game types, or maybe some new rules that more people in your group might want to try. There's no one right way to do it, and different laws will uh, prohibit certain games from carrying over in other ways. Like if you have watched any of the people play in Singapore, because I've watched a few of their competitive events, but also just their, dare I say, casual. I'm not sure if I've seen as many like casual games recorded. I usually see more of the high end blasters being used. They've got some pretty serious loadouts. I think a lot of the folks over there too have some very serious outfits, which I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying like that's what they bring to the table, and it's a different way to play. I wouldn't necessarily be as comfortable using all of their blasters and dressing that super tactical in a public place out here, but we've got plenty of indoor spots or private locations like where people do airsoft that would make sense for the same thing to happen. Um, there's also the different restrictions on like airsoft or paintball over there, so it's completely understandable that for some people that's their entry into a an airsoft or paintball level play field, but with Nerf. So half dart power, HPA power. It's different laws. It's not wrong. It's just different. So remember that. That is my wisdom for the day. Just remember that there are many different ways to play. They're not wrong. They're just different, and they can be a lot of fun because I do get a kick out of playing the different types of games, um, especially when I've gotten to travel for Nerf. So, like, I get to do most of the ones around Pacific Northwest, which are very laid back. They're very, lighthearted, where you can use kind of whatever you want that falls within our FPS cap of 150, and 150 is not too unreasonable for a quote unquote super stock game. We're trying to look for more places that would allow for ultra stock style, meaning more like 250, 200 at least, being safe because our regular public park is public, and a lot of people will walk through just kind of casually, not really giving a care that clearly there's a Nerf style game going on. And a stray dart hitting them is a very real possibility, and I would prefer that not to be at 250 FPS because it could happen and then we get in trouble. So finding the right spot for that is always a prerogative for some people. But for our games, they're definitely more laid back, and for that reason, I think we're able to have a lot of fun, and we've encouraged a lot of people to not be worried about bringing some crazy loadout just because they understand that they can use kind of whatever they want and they should be able to play well. That also helps that we have big trees that you can kind of jump between for cover, or literally jump like myself, like a ballerina. And I think, yeah, like I said, some people have maybe been encouraged to come to games more than not just because they understand that that's the rule set, or they understand that that's the atmosphere that we have created in our group. So I'm really happy that that is the case. Now, I've gone other places which are a little more competitive, and that is completely fine as well. Even if it's like ultra stock style, but a little bit more laid back at the same time. I would argue that when I went to Boss, we did, I mean, it's high FPS, but it's also like it's PvP games more or less, and they're not super competitive at the same time. They're just meant to have fun, but showing off your like high powered stuff at the same time, which is good. Which is also different than playing like a competitive game, and I've played that too. And I like being able to have that variety in my life because it gives you a chance to use different blasters too if you have a collection. And I do have a collection, even if I'm trying to pare down that collection every day I think about it, just because space is a constraint that is real. But things like the Foam Pro Tour being 250 FPS and more of a the Ion Rush style format, and then Ragnarok being 150 to 200 depending on what you're using, but still with that competitive flavor. You come in with a completely different mindset, and I like being able to do that too because you can still have fun. Don't get me wrong, you can still have fun in a competitive format. You wouldn't play if you didn't have fun, right? But it's different how you approach it because you have your specific team, right? It's a much smaller team than you might have for a big open PvP game of 150 FPS where someone's using a strife that is definitely tuned up to 150 and someone else is using a lightning bow. It also works for HVZ, but we'll get to that. Uh, the competitive is usually like, okay, you're using something that is meant to try and tag out other people. I conform to the competitive format when it comes to choosing a loadout. My FDL3 is a great option for that. My Foxfire Talon would be a great option for that too. Dart Zone Pro Mark 1 is probably a great option for that as well if I get a chance. Talon Claw, you understand the gist. So I obviously approach it with a different play style because I want to play competitively. I want to tag people out. I want to win for my team. I I don't want to lose like for the team, but if I do lose, not all is lost. It's just a game at the end of the day still. But you obviously approach it slightly different, and it's for some people that's how they prefer to play. Like they come from paintball, and I completely understand. If I had to choose though, I'd probably default to the non-caring stuff because I can use whatever I want, and then no one will think differently of me when I make a mistake and oh no, our game is lost. Sometimes there's a little bit more writing on those competitive events, but again, I like having that variety because it means that if I want to focus on like playing a little bit more competitively, thinking about how much ammo I have left in a magazine, thinking about strategy, I can reserve that for like a competitive field. I don't have to use that on trying to beat some of the 12-year-olds that I'm playing with. Like for some of our casual games, I'll, run past someone else who might be trying to shoot at me and I don't care. Like they can tag me out, I'm going to go respawn and come right back in. Who cares? It's just a game. And also, I mean, if I had to choose like making someone who's new to Nerf and they're excited to tag more people out because it's their first time playing versus me trying to get a huge kill count, I'm going to let them probably tag me because their experience is important too. So that's my long ramble of my 2 cents, which turns into, I guess, multiplied by how many things I talked about. I'm going to move back to the chat. A lot of door prizes discussion. Yeah, that's at 3 p.m. today. Sorry, you've got a little bit more time to either bear with me or turn off until 3 p.m. Super jelly of the location you guys have going on in the Pacific Northwest. Mr. Lightning Eagle, yes, we are very fortunate, and it's crazy that we still keep finding new places that we want to try out. Obviously, right now it's not really conducive to search locations, but I had started compiling a list of all the places we have played at and the places I was considering playing at. And it's good because our usual Fort Borst games are what everyone kind of knows, and it's a great location just because it's sandwiched in the center of greater Washington people and Portland, perhaps. I'm going to be selfish and say Portland just because the further south you go in Oregon, it's a little bit further of a drive. But some people will drive 3+ hours to a single game, and other people won't drive more than 30 minutes. That's just the way things go. Transportation works differently for everyone. Not going to judge, obviously, different financial situations, but I think Fort Borst is nice and sandwiched in a spot where we actually are able to get more people coming in. And I would say that that's one of like our favorite things too, is that we can actually bring people together from like the greater Pacific Northwest. And why I I think, we call them like Pacific Northwest games. So also not something you want to do right now. Mix people from Washington and Oregon. Stay in your state. Stay home. I'm very fortunate that we have just such great cover too. Like our trees are good trees. Pacific Northwest trees are big trees to hide behind. And I take full advantage of that in our games, and I love disappearing behind big trees. Three-legged battles. Boom tennis. Did I say three-legged battles? That would be weird. That could work though, if people are willing to align to that. That's a good point. There's a little bit of a tangent there from comments. The one thing I've learned about game design for hosting games, playing games. So I also advertise myself again as someone who will use just about anything. I'm easy, but I'll play just about anything too. I'll be happy to try out new game modes. I won't get too butthurt if things don't work out. I just want to get a chance to play. I love Nerf as a way to run around outside, as a way to see people I haven't seen in a while. Just all in all, have a good time. Recreational sport, but also a great way to um, spend my time. Now, not everyone that comes to games is going to have that same mindset. Some people, understandably, will put their time and their resources into a specific build, and they will bring that blaster with them under the assumption that they're going to play with it. Now, if they haven't checked the rules, that's on them. Like if they build something that's going to shoot at 170 FPS and the cap for the entire day is 150, that's on them. Like, sorry, not going to work. But if they build something that completely falls in line with the general game rules and they come and they then find out, oh, sorry guys, like it's actually going to be all of our games are going to change a little bit just to accommodate like some of our younger players. Well, it's understandable, but I don't know, that person may not have another loadout. I bring more stuff so I have variety just in case, but not everyone is able to do that. And also, not everyone wants to jump in and play different kinds of games. And so it's completely understandable that if you're having PvP battles and people like that, but then there's going to be like an HVZ game and they don't want to run around as much, that they can sit out, and that shouldn't be a bad thing. Everyone will play differently. So if you make too many specialized game types that are very involved, like say for example, you have a Hunger Games style game where you have like a cornucopia of blasters in the center and you start with like darts in your hand and you have to run and get them. Well, then the odds are most likely that's not going to be a specialized thing in the center because that would risk it breaking. So it might be like stock blasters like a hammer shot or stock strife, I don't know. But things that are scavengeable style blasters that mean you don't get to use what you brought. And not everyone's going to be on board for that. And that's completely understandable. It's best to try and design games that would accommodate more people coming to the games, but understanding that there were the rules that they had to um, follow in order to bring that blaster. Just my quick thoughts about that, just because I've seen, I've thought about game types a lot where it's like, oh, that would be so much fun. And then I'm like, so I know my immediate group of friends would be okay with this, but what about the greater group? Because for some people, if that's like our only monthly game, that's what they've been waiting for, and then they don't get to use their stuff, and that's like kind of discouraging for them in the future, and then they don't come back. Just my thoughts. 2 to the power of 72 cents. Yeah. After saying that too. Brett, I'm disappointed that you are not sipping from a Reese's Pieces Lowball. Also, nice SDNC patch. Yes, my patch wall. I did just move this patch wall behind me. Also, good morning, Tim. I did just move this patch wall behind me for the purposes of this recording. My room is in a bit of a moving state as I situate myself from a work from home environment. Hello, quarantine edition. Yes, yes. Okay, jumping a little bit. Beret is 2 hours. Yes, I do. I do typically drive 2 hours just for our games, about 2 hours, but it's okay. It's worth it. Definitely worth it. And I'm not doing it every weekend, so I turn it into the day and I make the most out of it. Do you chronograph every blaster people bring, or do you only chrono ones that look suspicious? Good question from Lightning Eagle. I will admit we are a bit delinquent on this one, but maybe that will depend on how you guys do it too. So we don't explicitly chronograph everything. And in some ways, I can see how, you get a feel for who's there, and you can tell that they have stock blasters. And I think even from a big invitational too, it's not a bad idea if you see someone with like a stock blaster. It's like, okay, you should be fine. But at the same time, you've got things that could fit inside a blaster that might be a sleeper. So I'm not someone who runs those invitationals, so I guess I won't speak from experience. But it's up to the people in charge. It just might save time if you're like, oh, that's a hammer shot. Probably is not doing too much over 100 if even possible. Which, hey, it's okay if you don't have a hammer shot shooting over 100. It's a hammer shot. It's fun. Um, but there are definitely blasters where I'm like, I think my general statement at games last time I was at one was, if you have something that's modded, you should probably chronograph it. If it's homemade, you should chronograph it. Those are the easy ones, I think, that would tick the boxes of please chronograph. We do hold our players a bit accountable just because I think I now have a pretty good understanding of who attends our games, and if they are new and they haven't interacted online, they'll probably just get asked to chronograph their stuff. It's we don't have a perfect process right now where we say, okay, everyone line up and chronograph, and then we'll get to the actual gameplay or the rules briefing. Maybe we can get better at that. We also need waivers, but so there's a few things we could improve upon for sure. But I know there are some places that do the chronograph stations better. We have had people asked to chronograph their stuff during the day after people had received a couple hits that they did not like, and they were thinking that blaster might be a little more powerful than acceptable. So could you have them chronograph? So we've luckily had some people who have volunteered to be referees while play is out there, and have kind of asked some people to quickly chronograph stuff. And it is shooting over our usual 150. Then they've asked them to please use something else if you have it, just because that's the rules. We haven't done. We didn't have a crony at. Sorry, chat, come back. We didn't have a crony at our war for a while. Generally, we just trusted people, and we never really had any problems except with one or two bad apples. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Sometimes people, like I said, they build what they want to build and they want to use it. They don't care how it looks. They don't care how it performs. They don't care they're using FVJs. It's different, but you teach people. Like I said, yeah, most of our guys I trust, guys and gals, we trust them. Um, but hey, I'm sure that even I've used like my FDL and I was like, wait, did I specifically dial this in? Like, I'm pretty sure the setting of 30, like power is fine. So I'm not too concerned. But if I wanted to align too, then technically I should be chronographing all of my stuff. So I'm trusting myself too, which I don't know if that's the right thing to do. We haven't done that type of game yet. Hunger Game style sounds interesting. It would be, Mr. AJ. I would be happy to try out one of those games one time. Right now, though, it's even worse because it would be assuming that everyone can touch anything on the field, and that does not really align with anything in the current climate. Perhaps I'll throw a Hunger Games style game in the future. But the idea is, like I said, you put blasters in the center, you start with a handful of darts. If Kyle's still in the chat, then he can remember a long, long time ago when we did this. You maybe have a couple things in like the Nerf crates, or we could just do any boxes. So like you would go to pick up the box and you don't know what's inside. And so it was like between a Panther and a Jaguar, which a Panther is a pretty decent modded with a brass barrel, pretty good pistol, and then the Jaguar is not. So yeah, we'll see. I'll keep it in my back pocket. Hunting it out yet. Before everything redacted, I had games with 400 FPS caps. Everyone would bring things from stock Mavericks to single Titans. See, I would be happy to use a stock Maverick at that just to see what would happen, Charlie. But that is an example, yes, of a much higher FPS cap where you probably don't have to worry about too much of people violating that rule. Yes. We get a tour of your instruction wall later. I don't know if there's too much interesting about it, but instructions unclear. Here they are. I don't know if I've added anything much to it recently. I am going to have to take it down in the near future and rebuild it, but yeah, they're just instructions. They definitely go a little bit lower than they used to, and they like go high that you would never see in a video because I'm not 6 feet tall. But they've got most of the instructions you could think of are probably on there or in a drawer that I would use to refill or change up the wall when I get a chance. But these are just like puttied on as well. My first iteration of this back in the day being 2017, I had actually taped all of these together, and so it was like a blanket that you could just throw up somewhere. But at the same time, then it would like pull and rip, which was not ideal. So now they are just individually stuck to the wall. So when I take this down, I have to like individually remove some of the putty from the backs of each one, and it's fun. And to put it up, I usually have like a movie going, and I just get creative with how I fill the space. And then I usually fill it too high, and I'm like, oh shoot, like I need more instructions where I'm actually standing. Did Wacom hear that rebuke? Oh, are you talking about the hammer shot one? Hey, if he's really dead set on having a hammer shot fire super, super hard, that is great. But I think the hammer shot is just fine at a lower FPS. I think that's where the hammer shot was really meant for. But again, if you want a high powered hammer shot and you don't get it, then yeah, you're probably going to be disappointed. But I think the hammer shot will always be something that people gravitate towards just because it's easy to reload. It's relatively compact, he says, knowing that the sweet revenge exists. And it's fun. I think you hand it to someone and they know exactly how to use it. It's like, oh, pull the hammer back and fire. Load the darts in the barrel. You could do it really easily. My girlfriend knew how to do it. Other people I've seen pick up hammer shots are great to use them. They love the fact that you could dual wield them, even if it's not super practical. Hammer shots are fun. What is your highest FPS blaster personally? Well, I mean, I have XPZ tanks, so a single dart flying out of that goes at however fast it can, which is not exactly a scientific way to put it, but probably my dual fish hitting just over 200 is my high one that would reliably hit over 200. I do have quite a few that fall around that like 170 range, like Dart Zone Pro, my Talon Claw, my Caliburn if I ever fix it. It's just been low priority. And then I had another one. What was it? Oh, my FDL3, obviously. Derp. Which still just uses full length darts, and I will not change that. I'm not going to get a half length nose just yet. I do like having a blaster that is dedicated for full length darts still. I am not fully converted to half darts yet. Not yet. I seem to have a 100 plus FPS hammer shot. I think it's out there. Sonny, I think people have done that. But like I said, I don't think it needs to exist, but if that's your goal in life, it's your dream, keep going for it. Don't let your dreams be dreams. I have a single air tank with about 1 foot of brass, and it hits about 220. Yeah, I believe that. I actually had that happen at a war because someone didn't realize how hard their FTL3 was hitting at a 150 war boomstick. Yeah, I've had someone firing at me with an FTL3, and I was like, well, okay, I understand the rate of fire, but those were flying like pretty fast. Could you check your settings? And he may have had them a little bit higher, but I mean, can't tell necessarily. And I think different people have very slightly different settings sometimes that would allow them to fire a little bit harder at the same speed. My AA bow hits 220 to 300. Oh yes, Mr. Lightning Eagle. I know you used that for Foam Pro Tour, didn't you? When I was new, I modded a long shot that was hitting 170. I didn't know that though, so I ran it at a 150 game. Dart nerd. Yeah, I mentioned I may have accidentally gone above an FPS cap in the past. I remember though when first starting out, when FPS caps weren't really a thing, and I had a slightly modded long shot, and I was firing streamlines out of it, so I couldn't really hit anything. But I would be curious to know how hard it was hitting, because the rest of what we really had that was useful were power pistols, and those were still not super powerful comparatively. So we didn't have FPS caps, so I didn't mean to shoot people harder. But like I said, streamlines don't go straight. I used to use mag strikes and fury fires during pre-elite NIC days. I unfortunately don't use as many whimsical builds, Smashable, and that is totally fine. Whimsical doesn't mean that you don't need to use a whimsical blaster to play with whimsy. Why am I still using that word? I don't know. You can still have a play style that doesn't mean that you're a super hardcore, like must win, nerf or nothing, like victory is important style. You play with a lighthearted mindset. You play because you want to, you still want to win. You want to do your best, but you don't have to. And if you do end up like not winning a certain round, you're not going to storm off the field and break your blaster. Like, this is bogus. Like, why didn't my team listen to me in this casual game where there were literally children on my team who wouldn't listen to me? Arr. You do not need to get upset on something like that. That is where you are totally accepted to bring in some lighthearted gameplay. Strong arm gang. Yes, strong arm is definitely more powerful stock than hammer shot. Hammer shots are one of the best designed blasters of all time. Mr. Aldas, yes, you use hammer shots quite often in your games. Or your hammer shot, your Chronos, and your Spring Thunder, I think is what I usually see from you. Unless I haven't watched recently and it's changed. Full disclosure, I haven't been able to see all of your live streams recently. I'm sorry. I run modded Raider at my 300 FPS games next to my friends with hydro cannons. Charlie, you're the real hero. I will say that after listening to Bobo and Drax's discussion last night, talking about Raiders for HVZ, I kind of want to use a stock Raider the next time I go to an HVZ to get a chance to play with a blaster that people thought was going to break the game when it first came out, just like they thought the Stampede was going to break HVZ. Because I never got a chance to play with those kinds of blasters in that format when they came out. I got a chance to play with them, but not for HVZ. Casual games, yes, and I do have some footage on my channel from 2013, 2014 that probably showcases me doing that. Don't look it up. It's not that good, but it's good to me. That's all that matters. What about your FDL? I'm assuming you're Destroyer. I'm assuming you're referring to previous comment. My FDL exists. I do need to use it more. I'm just always a bit hesitant to bring it to games I'm not sure of because it's my expensive blaster. My FDL is my most expensive blaster. From Lightning Eagle, any plans or want to get a double burn beret? I think a double burn would be great. And I would definitely get a double burn with the sole purpose of shotgunning it as much as possible because that would be awesome. I always forget, even with my Talon Claw now, that you can prime it multiple times and have multiple darts in the barrel, and then you can shotgun blast it, which is a great feature of the Caliburn. And there's another great way to use it if you don't want to shoot however high a single dart will go out of a Caliburn, because shotgun spreads can be effective, but they can also just be silly and fun. So a double burn would, for one, force you to do 2 shots at a time, unless you break it. And then you could just at least like 2 pumps and you can fire 4. That sounds amazing. And I like that. So Lightning Eagle, I don't know. That would be cool. I just haven't purchased anything recently beyond one of my more recent videos was my Spring Thunder, but I purchased that back in like December. I don't think I've bought any blasters since then, to be completely honest. It's been a while. Maybe I was going to look at getting an Ultra 2 just because I was curious, but not yet. Yeah, luckily at my war, we have a good community supply of half darts. Unfortunately, I was the one who supplied them. Another interesting topic. If you have a big enough community behind your group that you can supply darts versus having everyone bring their own darts, we have a small supply Small being like 1,000 at least. I know people who bring like 3 or 4 times that much. So I say small being 1,000 of full lengths for our games. We don't have a rival supply bin. We don't have a half dart supply bin. And I think that's helped at least curb the FEJ people who end up bringing FEJs accidentally. I would like to imagine that people don't explicitly bring FEJs to our games because we don't want them there. But if you're in a different country that allows FEJs, that's fine. Or heck, even if you're in a different state and you want to use FEJs further, if you're in a different part of the Pacific Northwest and you have FEJs at your game and that's fine with you, that's great. But it's not going to be associated with our group that officially does not allow FEJs. People want to play with them, that is fine. Airsoft exists. Old school NIC exists. No judgment if that's what you want your game to be, but for a general game where almost anyone is allowed to play, which is what we like to do, I think FEJs are a mistake because standard eye protection for like a 150 FPS game is definitely going to keep you protected with soft darts. FEJs might not be the same. And casually smashes $500 FTL. Rip, Mr. Naptown Nerf, but it's okay, he fixed it. I think my main takeaway from this stream is that if you really want to boost your events, Whimsy, invite Beret. Yes, Aldos, invite me, pay for my travels, do all that, and then I will be there. But not right now, because I don't want to travel right now. And my company probably would discourage it as well. I really do wish that I could travel to more events and see how people play. I think Addy has echoed this the exact same way. As I mentioned, it's a great way to inspire you to play differently. Maybe bring some new game types if you hadn't thought about them before, see how they work at a different field, get a sense for the people, but also we don't have the same field everywhere, right? Like my typical Fort Borst play zone, I know pretty well at this point. Like I know which side has more trees. I know which side has more open spots. I know how big the trees are. I know what the best route to go is if I don't want to go the main route and I want to score a Titan rocket for Titan Ball. But then I go down to California and there are a bazillion different fields that I've never played at. And that changes how you play. It changes how everyone plays. It changes how games might be set up. I've played at UC Davis with Kyle, and some of the games that they play at the concrete Death Star, quote unquote, is also very different. And you can't organize games the same way at that location in Fort Borst. They're just completely different. You also don't want to encourage people to like run their heart out and literally, parkour over the edge of a 20 so foot ish drop. That's not safe. That will get them kicked off probably. Is there a stream delay? Well, I don't know. Sorry if this has been answered already. What's your favorite blaster beret? That's a tough question, Sonny. The Sax BZ, sure, because I use it all the time. To get the full experience, use old school streamlines with the Raider. All the darts shooting around the target like it had a force field. I do have a couple. I have a small container. I'm actually looking at it over there of old streamlines that I've saved for that specific occurrence. Gotta wait for the right time. No, there's not a delay. There's just me being delayed in the chat. I may have supplied half links for 2 groups just because I want to use them. Also a reasonable thing, Boomstick. I feel sad because all my friends make fun of me because I never use my Caliburn in wars. Yeah. If you go out of your way to purchase a specific blaster and then you never use it, then perhaps that's your decision. Like, wait, why did I buy this thing? But at the same time, there is nothing wrong with buying a blaster for the sole purpose of building it yourself and just looking at it or tinkering with it, because not everyone can go to games. I'm sure there are people watching right now who have never been able to go to a game, and that's okay. I'm sure they would be interested still, but you don't have to, right? Like you can still take this hobby to just tinker, to just collect. You could have a cool display. You could just like playing with toys, and that is also just fine. Target shooting in your backyard, no judgment there. It's as long as that's what makes you happy and you are fine with spending your money that way, then kudos to you. But if you have games that would allow for that blaster to shine, then I mean, maybe you should use it, but you don't have to. Rival is too expensive for most groups to supply. Same with Mega. Agreed, Lightning Eagle. Yeah, Mega never super came down. You could order the Whirlwind heads for not too much, but there's still obviously more. Now get a community supply of rockets and we'll talk, because that has never been harder as well. Do you think that Gel Ball will kill the Nerf community in Australia? Um, I will admit I have no idea. I don't have personal experience playing in Australia or playing with gel balls at all. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that'll be a good question for someone who actually, maybe me, Bradley Phillips, would be more equipped to answer that question, because I have no idea. Perhaps, but I still think Nerf has made its stake in all countries at this point, and there will always be people who like to play with that stuff, because if you've already invested in the supply, I mean, you want to play with them, right? Because you have the stuff. See previous comments. Da, da, da. Jumping ahead. Always short on rockets. Yes, we are, Luke. Well, I mean, if Hasbro would start selling their rockets again, especially with the grenade launcher, I hope we see rocket refill packs hit the shelves again. Now I realize that I have a good supply that I'm afraid to almost use if people take them. But I also have like 9 rockets still in package, so I should be confident enough. The thing about Rival, though, is that they last so much longer than darts. That's a good point, Aldos, unless you're playing like a super wet day and people just leave them waterlogged. And then that's, yeah. Best I can do is a basket of plush peeps, because Beret is ruining Nerf. There we go. Finally, someone said it. Jury's out, everyone. I am ruining Nerf. It is the way to go, ruining everything. One soul at a time. Like Shang Tsung, your soul is mine, and Nerf is ruined. my hobby is ruined. What's Review Bras way? My disappointment is immeasurable, and my hobby is ruined. Oh, are they illegal? I didn't know that. Like I said, I have no experience there, Luke. I didn't know. Indoors, yeah, they get lost way easier outside, in my experience. Yeah, or especially if you have a proton pack. Psh, those guys, the worst. Yeah, we're a bit, like we kind of supply ammo, like I said, full lengths, but I mean, I have other things that I'll bring too. Like I have a big supply of Rival right now that I don't like personally use. I don't have a proton pack, or I don't have a whole bunch of Rival blasters, which means I would technically be fine with letting people borrow my Rival ammo, but I have to come in with the assumption that I might not get it back. Also, if it's like a really dirty field, like mud, or it's really dusty, I don't expect that to be like a way to get it back in good condition, because it can still get stepped on and like really like you get a yellow ball back that's mostly brown, and you're like, I don't know if I want to use this. Like, I don't know if I want to touch it. I don't know if I want to load it into my blasters and get them like gunked up on the inside and then shoot someone with it, tag someone with it. Yeah. I have 0 rockets. Yeah, I understand. Bray, do you need more ballistic balls? No, I don't. But if you want to send me ballistic balls, you can. I'm not going to stop you. I have a lot of ballistic balls, though. The future is ballistic balls. Or at least I would have said that if we were still playing games like immediately. But I do have a lot of ballistic balls, so that's good. I have just realized how crazy our 400 FPS nipple tip parkour games are. Oh, I love that. I mean, ironically enough, yes, parkour shirt, parkour arena style. But I would consider Nerf to be like a parkour style game, because people can move. People are encouraged to move a lot with Nerf, right? Like the stock blasters aren't super powerful. So if you have like a big open field. You have to move around a lot. And then because the darts aren't flying super fast, even if they're modded, right? Like you can typically see darts. If you know what you're doing, you can dodge them pretty well, especially, yes, stock blasters, even elite blasters. And that's what makes it so fun to play those kinds of games because you can just like dance around and avoid them. You can do some like parkour moves, debatably. They may not be explicitly parkour moves, but you can really trip up your opponents by trying to dodge all of their ammo, and it feels like you're in the Matrix, which is always a good fantasy. And if you move fast enough, then we will dodge all of their darts, and we will raid Area 51. I encourage you. Jumpity jump, jumpity jump. Buff Daddy did a full HEC at New Paltz a couple years ago with nothing but a basket full of plush peeps as socks. Yes, he did, Mr. Spam Man. And Buff Daddy is a great example of how to bring whimsy to your wars. He is my alter ego who I have offered to take over my channel if I decide that I don't want to do it anymore. And I'll just give him my collection of berets and say, "You're beret now. Thanks. Have a good day." Then he'll keep his green association with Hasbro, and then he'll also be able to have like a small YouTube channel. The best of both worlds. Hannah Montana reference at 8 in the morning. Yep. I expect to lose any ammo I bring to an event. Likewise. And you can dodge. Hey, Death by Nature, you're here. Good evening. Yes. Muddy Rival is paintball in disguise. That's a good point. Mega Loadout is amazing. Yeah, it really is. I live less than 15 minutes from Kane, but I would rather play elsewhere because they haven't updated their rules to ban FEJs. A lack of attention to that small detail turns me off of playing there. That's unfortunate. I guess it depends on who's playing. I know it's been a pretty good push recently to resist FEJs on a general scale. There's been someone like in our group who has advocated for having like an FEJ only game. And again, it's like if you're going to separate it, that's fine. But I see that having them included in standard games just wouldn't make sense. So split, and you can make the choice. Naptown says they don't use FEJs anymore at Kane. Aha! There we go. Updates. I think it's a responsible decision because we used to say I will still remember the video from the I was about to say Naptown Nerf. You're in the chat from the why is my brain farting already? From the guys in Nobicon. They made a video about, hey, FEJs exist, accept the pain, play with them. And at the time it was like, well, yeah, FEJs just kind of exist. But now that video is outdated. It's just times change. And we get more darts that are similarly cheap but safer because we now have a lot of different options for heads. And heck, we even have Adventure Force waffles, which you can buy at most major places that are pretty cheap, and they are very safe, and they're great for accuracy. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Oh, it's like 1:20 a.m. in Australia. Nice. That's like when you came on our time for the first time. What are your thoughts on groups that have admission fees? Good question. The Maryland Nerf Herders just started having a $5 entry fee just to cover the cost of cover, loaners, and ammo. It's a very good question, Boomstick Mods. I know some people have a pretty strong stance on having events be free to play. I will admit that I don't 100% say that all events should be free because, yes, there are some times where you're just like, someone's going to have to eat this cost. And if everyone coming is game to like pitch in a little bit for this place, then that's great. I know that's a little bit separate than just a casual game. But I'll start with like one that I can 100% get behind. And we do have about 10 minutes left, just as an FYI. So if you do have any questions, we'll try and wrap it up in these last 10 minutes. So we've gone to some airsoft arenas here and there. We've played on some private fields in the past where they were gracious enough to let us go in for free initially, but if we wanted to go again, we probably would want to pay them for their usage. It was more of just a test trial to start with. So if we're going to an airsoft field that is nice, it's indoors. Um, you don't get that kind of cover everywhere, right? Like there's a reason that they have that made. It's so that you can have that kind of experience, and it works great for Nerf. But there's a cost, and we've had things in the past of like $25 per person, or we've had some other lower rates thrown around too. But there's still a cost associated with that, and it's not negligible. Like a couple bucks might not be the end of the world for some people, but $20 is not insignificant, especially when you're bringing your ammo, you're bringing your blasters. In this case, maybe you can take the ammo part out and just say, okay, you're still bringing your blasters. Um, and there still might be travel associated. So for some people, they might be driving a couple hours to get to this location, and there's not an insignificant cost just to get to the location with your gear and your time. Time is money. So for some people, they might not be interested in paying as much money. So I understand that, but for places like private fields that you may have to reserve, yeah, I think it's acceptable that you might have some cost to cover to be able to play there. As far as actual like standard games to cover dart fees, if you do have like an adequate supply for dart rentals, I think that's also completely fine. It just depends on how much you are actually bringing to people. Because if you have a very small supply and you get like 3 times as many people for that supply, but you understand that that's how many people are going to be there, then then they may not be paying for something. I've never seen that happen, but I would imagine in that scenario it wouldn't really be an appropriate use of like charging people for stuff. So location rental, supply rental, heck, if you're even borrowing someone's blaster and they are like a little more reserved on like, hey, please, like just because this is a little more special to me, would you be willing to pay a rental fee? I'm not against it, and I understand too for invitational HVZs that have a lot more to cover too. Like I wouldn't be opposed to having a small fee for End War as well, just to host the everything. Um, it's it's something that you got to do. Obviously, there's travel involved, but I think they get away with it as well by having people volunteer their money as sponsors. So that's one way that they can slightly avoid it. And I'd be happy to throw more money into my club as well to see that that goes through too. I know there are other people who are happy to leave their ammo every now and then for future dart rentals. So that's my thoughts. I don't have a problem with people charging it, but if they're charging a little too much for something that you're not really sure about, then it shouldn't be for profit. You should definitely have money that goes into group and supplies and general things versus personal funds. Like I should not be collecting that money and say, "Oh, sweet. Well, I only bought like $5 worth of darts this time, so I'm going to pocket the rest of the 30." Don't do that. No, no, no. I admit that took longer to answer than I usually expect, as always. I have to turn off new players. Yeah, it was a time when they were the only cheap option, FEJs. It's like end war discussions. If the organizers are getting permits for the space, so you can't get kicked out of insurance, then is there to be a cover charge? I agree, Aldos. Yes, yes. But yeah, there are a lot of people who are happy to just donate darts because darts are a lot cheaper than they used to be. My old group once rented a decently expensive indoor building and had to charge $10 per person. That's not too bad. Some of the places we've done airsoft arenas before for Nerf was like $25 per person for 2 hours, and there's a reason we haven't gone back there for a while. It's because it's like so expensive for such a short amount of time, and it was like 2 hours from start to finish. So you get in, your 2 hours starts, and you got to be cleaned up by the end of that. Time warning, we've got 5 minutes left. FYI, 5 minutes. We have rent and equipment, and I'm not sure that's what the question is covering. I need to get to your place, Aldos. I want to play with you guys. I need to play with the parkour arena again because your arena looks fun. Also, you guys look fun, and that's more important. There are some groups like mine that play on a private field, provide all the illegal ammo, and have rentals. Yep, and that is also totally fine. Jumped. Do you have to bring darts to End War? Yes, I believe you have to bring. You've always had to bring darts to End War. I do hope End War is still on. I don't know at this point. I will wait for the official folks to make that call. I am not affiliated with End War officially, so I cannot speak to any of that. But I understand that things might not work out so well, so I will be waiting to see. I also, unfortunately, have a potential conflict with some friends who are having their wedding set that weekend. So I really don't know what's going to happen. And with this situation developing as we did not expect it, end of last year, yeah, I don't know, guys. But I will stay positive. Yeah, $25 for 2 hours. But they had blasters we could rent. So they had like stock rival blasters. We show up with like out of darts Jupiters. They're like, whoa! And then out of dart shows up for the first time with his garden weasel. Whoa! Mind blowing. This was like 2 years ago. I think people demanding an event as large as End War should always be free is a quick way to make one person broke and kill off an event. Yeah, I'm not opposed to pitching in a small amount for End War. I know the sponsorships are a little bit higher. I wouldn't mind if they threw in some lower tier sponsorships. Like I put forth $75 for Ragnar Oktoberfest because it was a reasonable amount for what I do. So I was able to contribute a little bit. And if they had some lower tier sponsors like that, I'd be happy to pitch in. I guess you can still donate too, but a good way to encourage people to donate is to have like those sponsorship tiers, I guess. I don't know what I would. I'm not looking for anything specific. I'm happy to help out in that way. Um, I'm not I'm not as determined to try and be a mod for something like End War or any large scale HVC just because that is a big undertaking and I just don't have enough HVZs in my life to justify me going behind the scenes, but I'm not 100% counting it out just yet. We shall see. Yep. So, in conclusion, um, play how you want. Play what play in a way that makes you have fun because if you're not having fun, then I don't know if you're doing this right. And we pride ourselves in the Nerf community by being lighthearted, loving what we do, being able to do that in many different ways, be it play, mod, make videos, what have you. It's so encompassing and that's why it's grown so much because some people get into it by just seeing other people make stuff. Some people get into it because they literally stumble across a game in the park. Um, be safe about it. Know your current laws in your location and region. Don't judge other people on how they play just because you don't like the idea of that. If it's safe, it shouldn't be a problem. Celebrate the difference in play styles for groups, differences, rule sets. Um, tune it to how you guys want to tune it, but don't be upset when someone does something across like the other side of the US or across the other side of the world that you're like, me, I don't like that. That's dumb. Well, it might not be so dumb for them. That might be what everyone really enjoys around there. Yeah, I have not. I will be honest. I have not purchased my travel ticket for End War just yet, even though it's very reasonably priced right now. But I am not opposed to trying to get it last minute. All right. Well, I'm going to refresh this feed really quickly, but I think that's all I got. Oh, there's Luchasaur's pistol. More stuff. More stuff. More stuff. More stuff. More stuff. Ooh, that's pretty. We could probably end it on that thing. Is that a hammer? That's a hammer shot. Here's the other small paint job I was working on last night. That's cool. I put a little more orange on it, but again, if that's safe for where you're playing, power to you. All right. I am going to wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone who tuned in, especially if you're like in my time zone. It's super early in the morning. I am definitely awake. I have definitely not been waking up at this time for a while, and I really should. It's a good way to start the day, at least. I hope you get a chance if you do have time to tune in to the other streams that are going to be taking place throughout the rest of the day, and later as well. We'll have the drawing, so don't miss that if you have posted something in the Facebook group or you just want to see more people. I believe next up will be Naptown Nerf and Out of Darts, so I will be sure to try and jump in the chat and mess with them as they have uh, successfully messed with me in this one too. I'm just kidding. You guys are great. Happy nerfing.